Seven, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Hello, everyone. This is Danny Lambert and the Plush Republic channel. This is MarketShare Ep.2. Our episode with Kevin Lee from Buffer. And now I'm lucky enough to have Jason Oakley, Senior Product Marketing Manager for Uberflip with us. Jason, thank you for your time. If you wouldn't mind, could you just run us a little bit about yourself and also about Uberflip?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Danny. Sure. So like you just mentioned, I'm the product marketer here at Uberflip. And Uberflip is, we've essentially created a platform for teams to be able to centralize, organize, and essentially create experiences around all of their content so that they can go to market using content. Essentially, our platform allows teams to centralize all the different content that they have in other platforms into one place, really easily organize it, build a taxonomy around how they organize their content, and then create front-end experiences as a way to package up that content for a ton of different use cases. Essentially, every way they go to market, if it leverages content, which most do, you use Uberflip to be able to create those experiences. And in doing so, you're able to create great engagement around your content, educate your buyers and your customers, and be able to drive revenue, which is the most important thing at the end of the day. And here I am the product marketer, like I said. So I focus on taking our product to market, work a lot on our product launches, support our sales and customer success teams, really try to tell a great story about our product.
Yeah, it's very interesting. When I first, I've seen you guys around the market for a long time, but you've definitely seen, or I've seen on my end, a huge uptick in your user base, because I'll be on various sites and you'll be like, wow, this is a really interesting content experience. It feels very personalized, or it feels very streamlined. I'm getting the right information really quickly. And then sure enough, I'll hit like the Data Nice extension and see what they're using on their site. And I'm like, oh, of course, it's Uberflip. And I guess that kind of leads me to one of the questions I have about the product as a whole that I think a lot of people may ask is, at what time in the maturity of a company do you think it makes sense to move into this content experience management platform versus just handling it on your own? Do you see, a revenue size, a company size where it starts to make sense to manage all of those assets?
Yeah, I think today, I know for our company, what we've seen over time, our product is, when we started with Uberflip, we focus a lot on the SMB. Since then, we've moved a lot up markets. Now we're more like mid-market enterprise. I think, for us, we really look for companies that are making a considerable investment in content and in content marketing and the tech that goes with that. Those are kind of indicators for us on whether someone will be, a good fit for Uberflip. But I think we start to see companies leverage our platform extremely well when they have processes built around how they're going to manage their content. They have a team that focuses on leveraging content throughout the the buyer journey and obviously creating content as well. So we've seen a lot of people with small content marketing teams and small teams in general leverage our platform and do it really well, whether it's a early stage startup and that sort of thing. But where we really see people shine is in that mid-market to enterprise, where they have a team that's focused around content creation, leveraging the content, have a built-out sales team, and are then enabling the sales team with content as well. And really teams that are have more of just kind of like I said, they're really like focusing on content marketing, and you find that people are doing that a lot more, say when they get into the later, like more mid-market enterprise stage, and just have so many other departments and teams that are leveraging it. And we see a lot of people with success in those areas. So I hope that answers your question.
No, it definitely does. And it kind of parlays into the next question perfectly is, content marketing as a whole is definitely exploded in recent years when, short form blog, long form video, slide share, and now even all the different rich media and interactive assets that you have out there. What is it that you're seeing, through 2019 and beyond in the content marketing space that's really starting to get some traction, or, traditional methods that still really stand true today?
Yeah, I think the big thing with content now is it's not just a lot of people think content is building brand awareness and a lot of top of the funnel, just driving, traffic and a lot of those vanity metrics that people think about. But I think content marketing now, it's being leveraged throughout the entire buyer journey. And so you're starting to see things like account-based marketing, sales enablement, even just demand generation campaigns, whether it be for events or whether it be for nurture campaigns. There's so many other ways to leverage content now. And it's not just about building more of an organic resource center that people can land on, finding you through Google or social. I think now, yeah, you're seeing so many things. Like the big ones we see a lot are account-based marketing. So teams today are really focusing on personalization and targeting accounts versus the more organic, top of the funnel approach. So I think account-based marketing is a big one that we've seen. I think sales enablement is also a huge one. So sales and marketing alignment in general is just a big trend that we're seeing when it comes to content marketing. Content is used by so many teams, and a lot of times we've seen that there are silos and these teams are creating their own content. They're not communicating or working together. And a lot of times there's inconsistencies with the content, inconsistencies with messaging. So the alignment of sales and marketing is a huge trend that we're seeing now across our customer base for sure. And so, yeah, I think those are a couple of the things, obviously to AI. So people are now starting to leverage insights and platforms, say things like Bombora or demand-based, different platforms that can give you really interesting data that you can use to dynamically serve up the most relevant content experience. So I think those are some of the big trends that we're seeing.
Yeah, that's a really interesting topic right now for me for a variety of reasons is, how many of these things that we're seeing out there that are AI, that are more or less vaporware. And that's where I'm interested from a content experience is, I've heard really good things about what your AI is able to do from a personalization standpoint and predicting, what the right piece of content is at the right point in the funnel. How are you doing that on the back end? Is it buyer persona based? Is it activity on your site based? Like, how is that AI operating to serve up the right content? And how much human involvement is that taking now? And where do you see that going in the next couple of years?
Yeah. So, okay, keep me on track here there's a few questions there, a few good ones that I wanted to get into. So I guess the first one, when we think about how our AI works, in the back end of Uberflip's recommendation engine, there are a number of different algorithms and pieces of data that we use. So one of the big ones, or one of the ones that we talk a lot about, would be our integration with Bombora. So Bombora is a third-party data platform that focuses on visitor intent. So intent, think of it as even before you land on our website, if you've never been to our website or our content hub or any of our streams that we publish, that sort of thing. If you've never been to those before, you have been browsing content on other sites. And Bombora has their huge network of sites that they have their script on. And essentially, they're able to, when someone lands on our hub for the first time, they're able to know what they're interested in based on the content that they've consumed elsewhere. So it's really valuable data, especially if you have no past history with this person. And so using that, what they call intent data, you can essentially understand the buying intent of that person. And then our system is able to leverage that, knowing what content you have in your Uberflip library to serve up the most relevant pieces. So kind of playing matchmaker between your intent and then the topics of content you have in your hub. So that's one of the big things. The other thing that our platform leverages, when we think about our AI engine, is just leveraging everything from your past browsing history, even just the most popular content in your hub. So there's a mix of all these different insights that we get from the content, but we bring that together, and I think there's somewhere probably 20 or 22 different recommendation algorithms that we use to leverage all the data we can get, and then use that to serve up the most relevant stuff.
So that's really interesting too, because Bombora is definitely feeding a lot of data into a lot of providers right now, and it's an interesting, I think, shift away from trusting first-party data much more than third, where now third-party data is becoming really reliable. A lot of people are selling that and people are starting to use that first because they don't have as large of a reach as their first-party data as they do with the third-party data. And I think some industries, particularly technology, benefit from that the most because people are consuming a lot of information online and are doing really amazing things with that. So in your AI, I guess my question as a marketing operations manager would be, where am I giving preference to? Am I saying, okay, you come in with third-party Bombora data, use that to personalize first. If that's not available, then we do whatever first party. And if that's not available, we go with our top performing content based on what we know. Is that kind of the flow that you have there?
Yeah, so that's an interesting, like really interesting question. I think when I think about our engine, we call them recommenders, those 20 or so different um, kind of insights that we use to recommend content. Many of them are powered by Bombora, many of them are powered by past activity. So uh, when we look at those over time, what we're able to do, at least in the back end of our system now, the way we look at our engine is understand which of those recommenders are most successful. Something we actually plan on being able to show customers, hopefully soon as well, is just what recommenders are actually performing best.
Yep.
And so using that, ultimately the goal would be somewhere where you can tweak those things, where okay, we're getting the most value out of this type of recommender. Let's put more weight on that, so we'll use that more often when recommending content. But it is an interesting, kind of point you raise about the marketer's kind of strategic insight, I guess, versus letting AI kind of take the reins completely.
Yep.
And so one of the things we've tried to do too with our engine is give people the ability to let AI do certain things, but then also give them the ability to say, okay, we're gonna let AI choose to recommend content, but from within this group of content that we see as the best fit. So say for instance, you're doing a demand gen campaign, you want to create an Uberflip content experience that has all your assets that you want to use for that campaign. You want to set up a recommendation engine to serve up recommended content. When someone, say, lands on the first piece, you want to recommend other assets. You could say, I want AI to choose the best piece or the best pieces to recommend out of the ones that make sense.
Yeah,
So
from this bucket, right? Like if you've seen a case study and now I want to give them product specific videos to whatever case study they did, like pick whatever one of these performs the best.
yeah, and to your point about the third party data not being as accurate, it's getting better 100%. But say for instance, as marketers, we know what content's better for the middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, top of the funnel, that sort of thing. So if you're on a certain campaign and you want to serve up recommended content on that campaign page, being able to say, let the AI engine choose the best piece out of our bottom of the funnel content.
Yep.
Right? So
It'll be interesting when it gets there, because it certainly will, is right. Like it'll eventually know, I'm assuming it will eventually know, this person's coming fresh off of a session in G2 crowd. They're much closer to the bottom of the funnel than someone who is reading an article on Tech Target or HubSpot blog or whatever. And
yeah,
once it gets to that level, I think that's the kind of concern that some people in the space have is this going to steal my job?
yeah, I think
But
yeah.
it's intriguing stuff.
Where you're starting to see it go too is, and this is something we're working on right now, is just the ability to feed in insights from like your CRM or your map, right? So, for instance, if you're a Marketo user, or if you have a Salesforce user, for example, being able to know in there, you obviously have the data around where in the funnel they are, right? And so being able to like define specific audiences, and when they land on a page, dynamically recommend the right content using all of the available factors, like that is something where we are going to be, you're going to see, if they're not already there, you're going to see a lot of people go there in the next couple of years, just because that's what everyone wants. All of our customers and just in the market in general, people want to be able to provide the most relevant collection of content to people when they land on your site as possible, because that's the only way you're going to get people, cut through the noise and get people to engage and educate and like influence that buying decision.
Yeah, no, there's definitely been a very important shift to quality interactions at every point, right? Because you only have that first impression once, and sometimes that's the only impression you're going to get. And that's super interesting. And one of the things that you mentioned in passing that I think I really want to hone in on here is ABM, because that's just been such a hot topic over the last couple of years, and people are seeing tremendous success with it as well as ourselves. So I'm interested to see from your perspective, what some of your top performers using Uberflip from an ABM perspective are doing and how they're finding these wins.
Yeah. So Great question. I think, when we think things that our customers are doing from an ABM perspective to see success, from a content perspective, I think the idea is providing, to my point before, providing relevant content and powering like the whole journey with content. So, an example would be in ABM, we see people have a ton of different plays. When you think of like, whether it be a direct mail piece or whether it be a specific, email campaign that's very targeted and focused on them, whether it be like sales outreach. A lot of times what we see people normally is that all of these would link to very separate content experiences. So they would link to an article on their blog, or the direct mail piece might just be a direct mail piece that doesn't even link to any content. But what we're seeing now is that from an ABM perspective, everything links back to content. Now, even when you look at the way that people measure how ready an ABM, like an account, target account is, a lot of that engagement and the way that they build those scores up is through interaction with content. And so we're seeing a lot of our customers either build out one great content experience and all of those different touch points point back to it, or even creating individual content experiences for each play.
Yep.
But I think, from an ABM perspective, even before they get into the distribution and the engagement, a lot of our customers are leveraging things like a Bombora or a Lean Data or something like that to be able to, they know who their top accounts might be, but to be able to find lookalike audiences to be able to target those.
Yep.
Then using that, being able to, bucket them based on different like technographic or firmographic, demographic information, being able to target those in like either a one-to-one, one-to-few, or one-to-many way. Yeah.
Do you feel that the product will start to migrate towards, a lot more strong ABM integrations in the terms of like, I have people I know engage with certain content. I know they live in these certain buckets of where they are in the funnel, what their techno and firmographic information are, and then dynamically creating ad campaigns around that. Say, do like Terminus and demand base, you can say, oh, I know these people are engaged with this content. This integration feeds that into our ad creation. Now you're starting to close that loop on the entire funnel. Is that something you guys are considering?
Yeah, totally. We use, even on our team, we use Terminus. We see a ton of our customers use things like Terminus or an ad roll. And the things that we will look at now, even on LinkedIn, we're doing targeted ads, just because in LinkedIn you can feed in an email list and be able to target people within that list. So it is that kind of loop that you're talking about is really interesting. We can get to a point where, and I think we're already there, but the idea where if people are engaging with certain content, even if they're interacting with certain campaigns, you can use that information to pull them from your map to be able to then again target them in an app like Terminus. And it's kind of like that cycle of pushing them further down the buyer journey based on they interact with content, that you're going to serve up the next logical piece, or try to get their attention online through a targeted ad to everyone who's engaged with that campaign. Another one we see really well now is Sigster. So that's a tool everyone's leveraging. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Sigster, but yeah. So Sigster's really
the email signature. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole new channel. It's really interesting how something that is, it's kind of so simple when you see it. You're like, it makes so much sense. We've seen a ton of our customers.
But it's a funny way to say that though too. It's the opposite of a new channel. It's like the original channel that just got reskinned and all this potential that was just not really thought of until now. It is amazing. We actually spoke with them a couple weeks ago, and that's what I was kind of hinting at too. Is with all the consolidation we're seeing with the various MarTech companies, like it has to happen at some point across all the different sales enablement tools, email tools. There's too many out there to survive. And I'm a strong believer that whoever really leverages this API economy and gets the strongest connections with the tools that make that closed loop more reachable are the ones who are going to last. And I think you guys have a lot of really strong integrations feeding your marketing automation data into your content management. Soon, maybe some of these ABM vendors as well. But where do you kind of see that going? Because I've noticed a lot of really big profile acquisitions in the last couple of years. Marketo, and Adobe, there's like a lot, Data Fox and Oracle, like they keep happening. Why do you think that is, and where do you think this is going to ultimately end up?
Yeah, I think what we see a lot, and I mentioned this earlier, you see now across a whole bunch of different organizations and different industries that the whole buyer journey, the marketing team plays a role in the entire buyer journey. It's not just marketing is now responsible for top of the funnel and generating new business or even just driving top of the funnel leads. They're responsible for like engaging buyers and customers with content the whole way. And I think what we're finding is that each department within a company, each functional group, a lot of them have different technology that they all use. So even from an organizational perspective, we're starting to see the need to break down all these different silos and get these teams working together. And the way you do that is getting them all within the same platform, getting them to share the same tools, leverage the same data, and just roll it all under these these kind of more centralized platforms. And so, yeah, it's really interesting to see, some of the big players like your Marketo or your, Oracle just purchasing a lot of these other systems, because I think at the end of the day, what they're finding is that you go to different great marketing teams and a lot of the complementary tools that they use, they all need to connect and work with some of these big pillar pieces, like a marketing automation system, like a Salesforce CRM, in many cases like an Uberflip as well, because that's what powers the content experience. And so, yeah, I think it makes sense for some of these bigger players to start acquiring some of these complementary pieces, because I don't think anyone's going to build a platform that does everything.
Yep.
And I think what we're moving, to your point, and we're moving more towards everything, it needs to integrate well with each other. And I think the most successful platforms are the ones that have the most powerful, but also the broadest range of integrations.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely. That's an interesting point, is that how marketing has become so cross-functional. It's not just like I have to get this lead into the funnel and then when it sells, we all celebrate. It's every step of the way. It's after the sales. You see a lot of these customer marketing teams popping up, and that's becoming a big trend. And one of the things I feel that you guys do very, very well that I want to dig in on, because I know a lot of teams, ourselves included, will struggle with sales enablement, connecting the sales and marketing team, making sure that they have the most up-to-date assets, particularly for you as a product marketer. How are you at Uberflip really enabling the marketing team to assist that sales team? I know you have a Chrome extension. I know you guys have a lot of like suggested playbook functionality. How are you finding the teams that are doing that the most successfully, getting the right stuff in the sales hands at the right time?
Yeah, I think so. Even just over the last couple of years, the popularity of sales enablement platforms is just
Skyrocketed.
Yeah, it's skyrocketed. So there's so many different things out there, and even with those, you're starting to see those build out pretty strong integrations and integrate with some of like the big platforms that everyone uses as well. But I think that that I forget exactly what the statistic is, but there is an astonishing amount of time on the sales team that is wasted creating content, and also a ton of time that's spent creating just net new content where sales reps are having to create their own content. And a lot of times it's just because it's not that it doesn't exist. It's just because the sales reps don't know where to find it or don't know that it already exists in the library of content that the marketing team has. And so I think it's great to now see that, the marketing and sales is becoming way more aligned, because the marketing team in a lot of cases has all of the content, and if not, they can create the content that the marketing team needs to be able to shape and influence the buying decision, be able to engage their customers really well with content. And so for us, the things that we use, obviously from a pure content perspective, we use our email extension. And the great thing about that is that right from the tools they already use, so that they don't always want to be logging into brand new platforms, so the email extension just gives it to them in their email. Also, too, platforms that integrate directly with Salesforce and be able to provide the tools that they're in every day. You just want to be able to be in those and then allow them to leverage those to find the assets they need. I think another important thing is like the way that the taxonomy, the way that you organize all the content, right? So you can't just give them a huge library that just has a ton of assets, but you need to organize it in a way that makes sense to them. So for us, it's tagging the content in any way that might be relevant. So it's like stage of the buyer journey, could be things like, even common objections that they get and be able to sort and find content that address those. Even different accounts if you're targeting huge key accounts. But then even not in content, I find one of the things that my team in particular focuses on is sales enablement. And there are so many other ways to enable the sales team, whether it's leveraging something like a Clue, which is competitive intelligence platform, to be able to provide them with the insights and the battle cards they need to compete against competitors. Even just internal knowledge sharing. I think that it's whenever you release a new feature, you want to make sure that they have all the collateral they need to be able to not only be able to send out just what the feature does and the value of it, but also be able to speak to how it compares to other things in the market. The way that it's going to relate to their pains or their objectives and how it's going to provide value to them. I think that there are a ton of ways that marketing needs to be providing for sales and enabling them. And I think it's having a platform like Uberflip where it's all centralized and they can find everything is a huge step.
Yeah, because that is certainly a challenge, especially for a product marketing team. You find all this really powerful insights, you make all of these really supporting materials they can be using, and then relaying the information that actually exists and is available to them gets lost somewhere in the sauce. And this is really, cutting out those steps, but more importantly, like you had mentioned, not adding additional steps to their day, because the more steps you're adding to sales day, the less likely it is going to get used or get done.
You find with a lot of this stuff too, that the more you can do this, the more you free up like you said, free up their time so they can actually spend it selling. I think that's the goal of the marketing team, is to empower the sales team with everything they need to sell the product really well and explain and position the product to their prospects and buyers. But I think the other thing is to free them of the time, to allow them to focus on selling instead of focus on creating content, because that's not their job. Their job is to sell, and the more time you can give them to do that, the better.
Yep, absolutely. I wanted to pivot the conversation just a little bit, because I feel that a lot of people watching find it very interesting to see companies that have had success like you, raise a lot of funding, have a very successful team, a really strong marketing department. They like to hear a little bit behind the scenes on how you guys manage day to day. I know I would. If you wouldn't mind sharing with us, like, what's the team structure that you have from a marketing department? I know you're on the product marketing team. I'm sure you have, demand gen and inbound and all of that. So you shed some light on how your team's structured?
Yeah, sure. So our marketing team's about 20, just over 20 people. And so, like you said, we have a demand gen team. Within that demand gen team, we actually, we're making a big focus this year on ABM as well. So we're specifically focused on a one-to-one approach, one to few, one to many. And so they can really focus on those key strategies that align with those initiatives. And we also have specifically a field marketing team. So field marketing is something that we're really going to focus more on in the next couple of years and onward. But for us, field events, we see that as a huge opportunity to especially get in front of and have great conversations with hopefully more strategic buyers, people within organizations that are making these purchasing decisions. And field events are a great way to get out there and meet those people, but also mix in customers as well.
Yep.
For us, we have, from an events perspective, Connex, if you've ever heard of it, Connex is our big flagship conference. And so every year it's continued to grow every year. It's been awesome to see it grow. I was there for the first one. I've seen so far we've had 3, and it's continued to grow pretty drastically over the last few years. And it's a great conference where it's not about Uberflip. It's not about our product. It's about content experience.
Yep.
So really great forum to kind of, preach the word of content experience and get everyone to focus more on that and to talk about it. And so from a field marketing perspective, we're going to focus this year on having road shows. So we'll have Connex roadshows, some mini Connex conferences in some key different cities.
Yep. We could almost do a whole segment on field alone. I think that's one of those ones that like Sixter's done for email. I think a lot of ABM and just field events in general have gotten a lot more traction because you're getting that one-to-one personal time. It really plays nicely into ABM with the pre-marketing and post-marketing campaigns, but
Yeah.
also lends itself to having some of the most difficulty tracking effectiveness. I know, at least internally, we have all the multi-touch attribution tools in the world. We have it all set up to do it correctly, and yet somehow those in-person touches never quite seem to add up the way it does digitally. For you guys, how are you tracking that field team, especially given that that's a much bigger priority for you this year than maybe it has been in the past?
Yeah, it's a good question. That is something, I'll be honest, I wish I had my field marketer in here to it, but
Maybe it's an unfair question.
yeah, it's one follow-up one. Maybe we'll get her in on your field marketing one, but it's I think for us, one of the big benefits of field marketing is, like you said, being able to engage those key accounts, but also being able to get in front of those buyers that you might not be able to always get on a phone call or engage with over email or something like that. So I think for us, it's we really want to leverage those to be able to get in front of those accounts.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I'll follow up with you on that one.
Yeah, I definitely do. Maybe I'll do a field marketing series. I'm sure a lot of people, myself included, are interested in the field marketer and teams day to day, and especially the analysis piece.
Yeah.
Given that you guys are such an integral part of a lot of people's tech stacks, who do you rely on day to day to run your marketing team's operations?
Yeah, from a tech perspective, for us, like the big ones are we use Salesforce, we use Marketo, we use Uberflip. We our website, a couple of different sites that we have up are powered by WordPress. From an ABM perspective, we leverage Engagio, we use Terminus. There are a number of other pieces there that I'm sure my ABM marketer would be able to give you the full list. But
He'll be watching the video being like, you forgot this one.
We use Bizible, we use Bombora. And from a content perspective, we leverage things like, Vidyard, Wistia, YouTube, we use SnapApp. We leverage obviously Adobe for all of our designing all of our content and things that are more design heavy. I'm trying to think. To your point, there are so many different MarTech pieces.
Yep.
And I think that's the thing that we're seeing in the industry is like there are so many of these different tools, and especially from an analytics perspective, to roll up into something. So obviously for us, we use Google Analytics as well. And I think what we've seen a lot of success with recently, we use platform Domo, and it's it's a great platform for something that centralizes all that data so that you can, whether it's tracking product engagement, whether it's tracking, marketing engagement, where your leads and prospects are in the funnel, it's a nice centralized place to do that. And then we also use Influitive for our customer marketing. So we have the Uberflip VIP, which
that's the advocacy tool, right? Yeah. Okay.
And Pendo. So Pendo's we do a lot of our in-app marketing through Pendo.
Got you.
Yeah.
That's one of those things, hitting on that analysis and data piece, that I think I'm seeing a lot of trends towards, marketing team warranting its own data warehouse, like you're sitting a BI tool on top of it and accumulating all of that, because even when you have these, individual attribution tools like Bizible, which we also use, and then you'll have maybe Einstein in Salesforce, it gets lost in translation because you still need to go into each individual platform, and it's a hard holistic picture to paint. And I think the solution in the future, just, kind of brain farting out here, is whoever's going to make it easier to tie all that together without a data scientist being involved is going to be the person who wins my freaking heart. because that
Mine
as
too.
as many good solutions as there are, Tableaus and Domos, like there's no one that brings it in the way that you need it to see everything. I don't think, at least right now, for us, and that
Yeah.
would be a really interesting solution.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, you know, every platform has its, like you said, its own set of metrics. But the more you get towards enterprise, dealing with enterprise organizations and large organizations, tons of different tech, and tons of different teams, they really just want that one place. So you might offer like a really great analytics package within your app, but in many cases, they're they just want your API so they can pass that data over to their main data warehouse. It's to our point earlier. I think the key for any MarTech is to make sure that they are able to pass the data along to some of those bigger, tools that people use to do their analytics.
Yeah. You
So
don't want to be that endpoint where all the data stops flowing, because you'll be
yeah,
the first person cut.
yeah,
Jason, as we mentioned earlier, I do want to keep these sections relatively snackable, like sub 30 minutes or so.
yeah.
But I have two more questions for you. One's going to be a secret question at the end, but for now, I just wanted to see if there's any advice that you have to the marketers out there, anything that you're seeing that you think is really important to get across for 2019 and the years to come, content-wise, tool-wise, anything at all that you think people would walk away wiser from. What would that be?
Yeah, well, the big thing we focus on here is to focus on the content experience, right? So now the fact that when you think of most buyers, I think it's 60 or 70% of buying decisions are made before you actually talk to a sales rep. So like content is influencing and shaping so much of the buying decision. And so to be able to win deals, you really need to be able to influence and engage people with content. And I think what a lot of people miss out on is that providing a really great content experience does it so many things for increasing that engagement. So things we talked about with providing relevant content, providing contextual content, um, packaging that up in an experience and being able to deliver people exactly what they're looking for. They come to your website, they're not coming to peruse content and just browse and hope that they find what they need. They're coming with a purpose and they need to find an answer or solve a problem. And so the quicker you can get people the information they need, the better educated they're going to be, the more trust they'll have in whatever it is you're offering, and the more they're going to engage with you and hopefully purchase. And so I think to focus on the content experience, and doing that throughout the entire buyer journey, not just the top of the funnel, but to have a consistent and focused content experience throughout the whole journey. Any time that a buyer or customer engages with you, it should be a great experience. It should give them exactly what they need. It should keep them engaged. So I think that, that would definitely be my main recommendation.
It's strong. Now people have to get to work with making that happen, because it's easier said than done, but the people who do it well surely reap the rewards.
Yeah.
So I have one last secret question for you. I think this tells a lot about people. What is your favorite Disney movie?
Disney movie. I think for me, it would have to be Toy Story.
Toy Story, the classic.
Yeah, so I'm a big Toy Story fan. I think I'm just a big fan of Tom Hanks and Tim Allen.
Yep.
So I love Buzz Lightyear and Woody. And yeah, I know it wasn't like obviously the first Pixar film, but it was definitely one of those ones that really put them on the map, and I just love the story behind it. So yeah, Toy Story would be a big one for me.
And how do you feel? You have to have the follow-up. How do you feel about the second and third compared to the first? Because I personally feel that they're almost comparable.
Yeah, I like them all. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I think it has been a while since I watched them, so trying to remember exactly what was in them is tough. But yeah, I think that the first one's always going to be the best, but I definitely don't think like they
They shame the franchise. Yeah.
What about you? What's your favorite?
I lean towards Lion King. You know, I have a hard time having anything else top that. Like the soundtrack to that is just iconic in my childhood. So I have to lean towards the
Definitely.
Lion King.
I actually, I think I realized the other day too, Cool Runnings is actually a Disney movie.
How could you forget about Cool Runnings?
Yeah.
But
Big fan of that movie too.
that's a great one. Well, Jason, I really appreciate your time. Your insight was super helpful. We should definitely talk again sometime. Maybe we'll connect with your field team and do another segment on that. But to all the people watching, like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. We're going to have a bunch more episodes to come. Hopefully some more people from Jason and his team and Uberflip. So go check them out if you haven't already. You have a great day.